All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another behind the scenes of the Raven of Telltale.
Welcome.
So
Welcome.
today I am presenting in collaboration with Nathan Perkins. If he would like to further introduce himself.
Yes, I am the creative consultant for Joe for his newest movie called The Raven. I also edited the trailer for the film.
Yeah, and what a wonderful trailer that is.
Thank you.
I'm still in awe of his work on it. So I kind of want to go in semi-chronological order, because he was probably the first one to find out about this project. And so, do you remember what your initial impression of The Raven was when I told you that I was working on it?
Probably something along the lines of ambitious.
Yeah.
I know it's definitely so different from all your other works, not just in length, but just a lot. Just, you have a bigger cast, your crew has grown as well. And so I think it's bigger not just on a length scale, but bigger on just everything scale.
I got the impression that you weren't super into the story either.
At first I was a little doubtful of the story, I will admit. I think I let you be very independent, because at first I was a little hands-off about the project, because I just wasn't sure about it, because, coming from that very ambitious thing, it's so much bigger than anything else you've done. And so I sort of just let you do it at first. And then, I started reading some of the scenes, and, my first thought was like, it's okay. I mean, it's definitely a Joe Kendrick film. I think the fact that it started out as a musical definitely turned me off a bit at first. But I think it definitely, as it evolved, as I was able to see actual footage of it, my opinion changed very quickly about whether or not, this was a good idea. Yeah, the first test that I saw was the test transformation scene that you did. And I think sort of the first few things going through my head were like, this is definitely a Joe Kendrick film. And at that point, I don't think I realized like the exact scale of what you were gonna, follow through this on as far as cast and crew, because it just seemed like, at that test level, it was just a one-man show. My first thought was, yes, this is definitely gonna be a Joe Kendrick film. It just has that feel to it, And so that was my initial thoughts with the test. Well, I think the rough cut just like blew me away, because I mean, a lot of the stuff that you couldn't really see on the script, because obviously you're not necessarily a very visual guy, and so when you're writing the script, you're very, dialogue heavy, and just like focusing on what the characters are actually doing, rather than the actual feel and look of the film. And so when I actually saw the rough cut, all of a sudden, like, all that stuff that I thought was just dialogue and talking turned out like so much better, just when you can actually see it in person. And so just right out of the gate, the rough cut blew me away. And I could, even though it had its imperfections, obviously it had its flaws, every rough cut does, I could at least see, the potential in this story, like really high potential in this story. Yeah, I was pretty, just try to be as honest as possible with all the stuff that you could fix. Some of the performances, obviously you can't really fix unless you go ahead and do a bunch of reshoots, which is just a bunch of time and stuff. And so obviously I just tried to focus on stuff that you could change, and tried to give as like detailed as possible about every little thing that that could be just that little bit better. Yeah, so I think, obviously, while I was watching the rough cut, I was thinking about, okay, how am I going to turn this into a trailer? How can I form a trailer from this? And after I had seen that, my sort of first step in building the trailer, after thinking of shots that I might have wanted to use, was firstly the music, because especially in trailers nowadays, music is everything. And so I definitely wanted to find a track that fit the mood of the story. And I definitely listened around to a lot of stuff. And so that was my first step in forming the trailer. And then as your first few shots came in on the drive, just of what I had asked you for, you know, slowly little ideas just kept popping in my mind of other cool stuff I could do, you know. I was just watching in what I had and then thinking, oh, I could do that, or oh, I could do that, you know. And then I think definitely taking advantage of just being able to shorten things so much, you know, like that opening scene with Simon and McGinnis. That was a really good scene for the trailer that I could just cut down into a few lines just to introduce the main almost conflict of the story and the main motivations of Simon's character, just right out of the gate. And then also that scene where Victor and Simon and Diana sort of reunite or meet. That was also a very easy scene to just shorten down to very concisely give the audience or the viewer watching it who might be interested in watching it just a real concise description of who these people are, and you know what, even the kind of conflict within who these people are, because you know when the way that Simon, you know, sort of looks at Diana, you can already tell that there's going to be a little bit of conflict there in the story. So just all those little tiny things and performances and little tiny things you noticed. Obviously, I tried to show the very best of the film, and even then I couldn't show some of the very best stuff just because spoilers, you know. Yeah, I think it just sort of slowly new ideas kept popping up into my mind, and it slowly formed into a complete trailer. And then from there, it was just refining, and switching around shots and picking different shots, you know, talking with you a lot about what you liked and what you didn't like about each individual shot. And, you know, just really refining. I think I had probably around 7 different versions of it in the end. And so that was a lot of really detailed and just like frame by frame editing, really. I think as long as you didn't necessarily show that conflict like openly, I think it worked out. That's why, you know, instead of showing whole scenes, the entire scenes that I showed were just like mere glimpses of some of the conflict. Like you can sort of see it in some of the performances, especially from Noah, who played Simon. You could see little facial expressions and stuff that sort of hint at the conflict that could be coming, but you don't necessarily see it or hear it in the dialogue.
I usually say that his performance is probably the best performance in this film.
Yeah, I'd say pretty easily as well. He just manages to be so manipulative, and he pulls it off really well. Really well. Fantastic job from Noah. I think the biggest thing that had such a huge improvement was the sound. Obviously, the rough cut was terrible as far as sound goes, to be honest. And I think you did a great job of cleaning that up so much, and it turned out really well. And I think it's difficult for me to like speak about this just because, you know, whether or not there's something inherently wrong with it, which I mean there were like a few things in there, like minor things, but a lot of it is just personal opinion, and we disagree like so much on a lot of personal opinion stuff, and so I think most of those little things are just personal opinion things that I don't think necessarily affected the final product. And of course I have those feelings of, like, little opinions about any film, whether it's a Hollywood director or a Joe Kendrick movie. I think the clearest message sort of within The Raven that you can pick up, and even then it's not slap you in the face weird, or not weird, it's not slap you in the face obvious, you know. which is a great thing. It's just the fact that, it's your decisions as a person that make you, good or evil. Victor, he was sort of born with that problem. He can't really change that. It's something that physically, cannot be changed, but it's how he used it and how he acted with it that really defined who he is, And Simon, he had a choice of whether or not to be the good person and be there for Victor and be support for him. But he chose not to, because guys in love can do stupid things, And Simon was a little bit in love, so I think definitely the most important within the story is, it's how you act is what really defines who you are. Yeah, this winter I will be coming out with a new short film. I kind of have to, because it's for school, but still, it's going to be something sort of new, because I'll be working with a lot of actors, which is not something that I normally do, just because I normally don't have the opportunity to. It's going to be something that I'm passionate about, hopefully. A lot of my short films have been just stuff that I do really quick, not necessarily something that I would want to do as a career, but this I really want to make something that I'm truly passionate about, and something that I really want to do with my life, and so that's really exciting. As far as your future projects, cutting trailers is really, really fun. It's almost more fun than actually making a movie, which is why there's a whole business centered around them. So I know, at least from that respect, I'll be involved in the trailer, and then also for hopefully a little more involved in the story as well. And then I think there are definitely a lot of things that we can have learned from The Raven. Obviously, it's not a perfect movie, even if it is a really, really good movie. And so I think there's a lot of things that we can take from there and apply that to the next film. And that's what's really exciting to me is, The Raven was a great project and a great film, but how do we take what we did right there and what we did wrong there and make it even better into, your next project? It's weird. I just feel like Joe Kendrick movies have a very specific feeling to them. There's just some sort of emotion or thought process that is within all of your films, and that is sort of unified by the cinematography and the sound and the acting and stuff. And I don't know exactly what it is, but I know there's something there. I think in The Raven especially, the cinematography was very unique, even if it was sometimes, what people would consider incorrect. But for some reason, I'm not entirely sure why, the cinematography just felt like a Joe Kendrick film. And I'm not entirely sure but what about it was, but just something about it. And I know you mentioned sound is definitely something that you want to improve, and there's no real reason to give sound a particular feel. You can give your images a particular feel, and they can be technically incorrect but still work. But if your sound's technically incorrect, it is technically incorrect, and it is objectively wrong to have bad sound, And so obviously that's something that I know you're working on and you'll want to fix for the next film. As far as story things go, I think for The Raven, the biggest thing that I noticed, the biggest problem that I noticed was the ending of scenes. It just felt like, I always like to praise the resolution of the film, the final 10, 15 minutes of the film, because it's just really well done. But at all the scenes sort of leading up to that, they don't really have a, clear ending point. It's like you sort of are jumping into the next thing. And then before the audience is fully ready to leave a scene, you're already cutting, to the next thing. I think cutting to those, drone shots was definitely sort of helpful to sort of ease that a little bit, but I still feel like the overall, each scene just felt a little cut off to me, like it wasn't quite complete, So I think that's probably the biggest thing that I can see moving forward that can be improved. Obviously, I like to be very strong visually with my films. I want the images to be impactful and to have meaning, and so I'm constantly learning how to make my visuals better, and that's just sort of a constant learning process of how I can make things just ever more powerful. But I think it's definitely helped of doing so many things so that you can just sort of naturally see stuff. I really do take pride in my sound in my films. I put a lot of work into making sure there is a distinct environment and that the sound is interactive. It's not just staying, in a mono position, that it's moving left to right and you can sort of be more involved and immersed into the film. That's one of the things I really tried to focus on with my Minute Movie series was all the sound is completely fake in those stories. And I was very, very detailed with every little thing, from the mixing, from the panning, from the reverb, from even equalization, all those little things in the sound. I tried to make as, perfect as possible. And so that's something that I sort of take pride in. It's not something that you necessarily notice, but it's something that I put a lot of effort in. And I've had numerous times, when I've asked people if they noticed whether or not the sound was all fake, a lot of times they'll be like, wait, what? They won't even notice the fact that it's completely fake. And so that's something I definitely take a lot of pride in. Recently I've been learning a lot about lighting and how you can use that to make up for, limitations with your camera. And that's where I'm sort of heading as far as the learning process goes, and that's really exciting for me to be able to sort of expand my skill set into other areas of filmmaking. And so I think just from a technical standpoint, definitely strong visuals and then a very immersive sound experience are sort of what I sort of consider my signature things. As far as story goes, I tend to be very focused, but also intense, even if it's just a joke, which I've done, just joke films. Even then, it's joking because it's taking something seriously that's really not serious, I like to take my films seriously, and that's why my upcoming film is going to be a pretty serious film, just because that's what I want to make, and that's sort of what I feel like my sort of my forte is, and the kind of movies that I want to make are more serious films.
Thank you all for watching this video. Thank you, Nathan, for talking.
For sure.
This has been great. I can't wait to work on the next thing with you.
So definitely check out Joe Kendrick's new film, The Raven, coming out October 31st. It's awesome. 4 out of 5 stars. 4.5 out of 5 stars. Definitely go see it. It's worth it. It's only 40 minutes, so it's just that small amount of time. So definitely check it out. Fantastic film. Peace.